Good morning from Fast Company. Here's our daily look into what's driving today's creative business leaders. Gen Z workers have been branded as demanding, unmotivated, and even entitled, a word that was used not too long ago to describe millennials. In an Intelligent.com survey last fall, 60% of employers said they had fired Gen Z workers not long after hiring them, and 1 in 6 managers said they were hesitant to hire recent college graduates. It's no surprise that Gen Z continues to be misunderstood, or that older employees might rely on lazy tropes as they try to make sense of a new generation. While it's true that Gen Z employees may have higher expectations for the workplace, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it may just be a necessary corrective in the face of questionable leadership. What many have labeled quiet quitting is actually a rational response to workplaces that lack fairness, structure, and alignment with employee values, leadership strategist Jeff LeBlanc wrote recently. Instead of writing off an entire generation, leaders should be asking, what are we doing wrong? As baby boomers age out of the workforce, it's imperative that employers find a way to better understand and court Gen Z employees who will be a key part of the next generation of workers. So, what can employers do to not just attract Gen Z workers, but make sure they stick around? Understand how Gen Z employees are different. Rather than typically dismissing the concerns of Gen Z or painting them as difficult to work with, companies and managers should consider why younger employees might differ from their older counterparts when it comes to their expectations of the workplace. Gen Z grew up amid economic uncertainty, social justice movements, and an increasing focus on mental health. LeBlanc wrote, "They don't just want jobs, they want workplaces that prioritize psychological safety, transparency, and fairness." Research indicates that Gen Z is far more socially conscious than previous generations, and that these employees prize diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and employee wellness. What older employees may perceive as being demanding is actually about advocating for themselves. This is also a generation of workers who grew up on the internet. Gen Z is used to putting every thought out for others to like, dislike, and amplify, wrote Amelia Dunlop, Chief Experience Officer for Deloitte Digital. When they show up at work, they expect their voice and opinions to be heard and taken into consideration. Consider the impact of the pandemic. Gen Z has also come of age during a period of intense upheaval, changing their experiences and perhaps expectations of the workplace. Many of these young workers finished college or started working at the height of the pandemic, which meant they had to acclimate to professional life while working from home. While there are benefits to young workers being in an office setting, many of them are also seeking more flexibility and want the option of working remotely. Flexibility in the workplace is not just a perk for Gen Z, it's a necessity, wrote leadership expert Cheryl Fields Tyler. Despite this, many organizations operate with the assumption that Gen Z employees need to work in traditional office settings to earn the right to have flexibility. Think about what they want out of a job. Gen Z employees do tend to have higher expectations of their colleagues and managers. That can be a shift for older employees who might expect them to pay their dues or show more deference. Unlike previous generations, Gen Z may not be as satisfied with an inspirational leader. Instead, they prize qualities like psychological safety and fairness, which includes equitable pay and access to professional opportunities, as well as a high degree of transparency, according to LeBlanc. Gen Z also wants to find meaning in the work they do. That shouldn't come as a surprise to managers who have already worked alongside millennials. That's also why younger workers may expect their employers to not just engage with social issues, but also align with their own personal values. In fact, research shows that Gen Z employees are 3 times more likely to stay at a job if they believe in the mission. And while work-life balance is important to other generations as well, it's a major priority for Gen Z. As Andrew Roth, who runs the Gen Z consulting firm DCDX, explained, quiet quitting or stronger pushes for work-life balance are not threats or insults to tradition, but merely calls for respect, protection of our health, and the desire for a more fulfilling life for a generation growing up in this always online world. In many ways, Gen Z is simply looking for qualities that all employees should hope to find in their workplace, including transparency, clear expectations, and equitable treatment. Companies that take their concerns seriously are likely to cultivate more loyal, committed employees of any age. That's all today from Fast Company. Talk to you tomorrow.
Spoken Layer.